Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real tonight. When you are on a man's mind, you don't have to guess, you don't have to chase, and you don't have to beg for clarity. A man can try to hide his feelings, but he cannot hide his behavior. See, thoughts turn into actions whether he wants them to or not. If you're living rent-free in his head, it's going to show up in how he moves, how he reacts, and how he treats you when things get quiet. When a man's actions stay consistent, even in silence, that's when you know you are truly on his mind. Silence doesn't scare a man who doesn't care. He can disappear for days, weeks, even months without feeling a thing if a woman is not important to him. But when you matter, quiet becomes uncomfortable. His mind starts replaying moments, conversations, and emotions connected to you. Even when he's not speaking, he's thinking, and those thoughts guide his behavior, whether he admits it or not. A man who keeps showing up without being reminded is not acting out of habit, he's acting out of attachment. He doesn't need daily conversation to stay connected because the connection already lives in his head. That's why consistency is so powerful. He remembers to check on you, respects your space without forgetting you, and maintains a steady presence instead of disappearing when things get calm. That consistency comes from mental focus. You don't stay consistent with something you're not thinking about. See, men are problem solvers by nature. When a woman stays on his mind, he starts mentally placing her into his future without even realizing it. He considers how his decisions might affect you. He measures his words because he knows they matter. Even in moments where he's busy, stressed, or dealing with life, your importance doesn't fade. Silence doesn't erase you, it highlights you. That's when his actions speak louder than messages ever could. A man who is thinking about you doesn't need constant reminders of your value. He already feels it. That's why he doesn't rush you, but he doesn't lose you either. He stays steady. He doesn't play hot and cold games because his emotions aren't confused. Consistency is clarity. It's proof that even when emotions settle and excitement calms, you still occupy space in his thoughts. When a man only shows interest during excitement, passion, or attention, that's not attachment, that's stimulation. But when he remains consistent during quiet moments, that's emotional investment. His mind doesn't shut you off just because things aren't dramatic. Instead, he feels a sense of comfort tied to you. You become familiar, grounding, and important. That's when a man starts associating peace with a woman, and peace is something men protect. Silence reveals priorities. If a man still chooses you without noise, without pressure, without chasing energy, that means you are already chosen in his mind. He doesn't need chaos to feel connected because his thoughts already do the work. And the truth is, men don't maintain consistency out of obligation. They do it because their mind keeps pulling them back to the same woman again and again. When his actions don't change just because things slow down, that's your sign. It means even in silence, even in distance, even without constant communication, you are still present in his thoughts. And when a woman stays in a man's mind during quiet moments, She holds real power in his heart. Emotional reactions reveal thoughts words try to hide, because a man can control his mouth far easier than he can control his emotions. Men are often taught not to express feelings openly, so instead of saying what's on their mind, they show it through tone, behavior, and reactions. When a woman is truly on his mind, his emotions respond before logic has time to step in. He may try to appear calm, unbothered, or detached, but his reactions tell the real story. When a man reacts strongly to your presence or absence, that's not accidental. Indifference has no emotion attached to it. A man doesn't feel irritated, jealous, protective, or deeply affected by someone he's not thinking about. Emotional reactions require mental investment. If your silence shifts his mood, if your distance unsettles him, or if your happiness without him triggers something inside him, then you are occupying space in his thoughts. His mind keeps circling back to you, and his emotions respond accordingly. You'll notice it in small moments. The change in his voice when your name comes up, the way his energy shifts when he sees you talking to someone else, the hesitation before he answers certain questions. These reactions happen because his mind is already engaged. He's thinking faster than he can speak, weighing emotions he hasn't fully accepted yet. Words can be filtered, but reactions leak the truth. A man who is not emotionally invested stays neutral. He doesn't overthink your actions. He doesn't feel unsettled by your independence, and he doesn't react when you pull back. But when you're on his mind, neutrality disappears. He may not always react in the way you expect, but the reaction itself is the evidence. Emotion is movement, and movement comes from thought. Sometimes his reactions show up as frustration, not because you did something wrong, but because he cares more than he wants to admit. Frustration often comes from fear of loss, confusion, or lack of control over feelings. If you weren't on his mind, he wouldn't feel any of that. He would simply detach. Emotional discomfort is proof of emotional presence. Other times, his reactions are protective. He checks in when you seem off. He asks questions he didn't ask before. He becomes more alert to your emotional state. That awareness comes from thinking about you even when you're not around. His mind has already placed importance on your well-being, so his emotions stay engaged. Even silence can be an emotional reaction. When a man goes quiet but doesn't disappear, when he pulls back yet stays connected, that's his mind working overtime. He's processing feelings he hasn't sorted out yet. He's thinking, replaying, and trying to understand what you mean to him. Silence in this case isn't absence, it's internal noise. A man's emotions betray his thoughts long before his words ever will. When his reactions feel personal, intense, or inconsistent with indifference, it's because you matter to him. And when you matter, you stay on his mind whether he wants you there or not. A man shows attachment through behavior, not promises, because words are easy to give when emotions are convenient. Promises can be made in moments of passion, loneliness, or desire, but behavior requires consistency, effort, and intention. When a woman is truly on a man's mind, he doesn't rely on talking about what he will do someday. He shows it in how he treats her right now, especially when there is nothing to gain. Behavior reveals where a man's thoughts go when he's not trying to impress you. If he remembers details about your life, follows up on things you mentioned casually, or adjusts his actions to avoid hurting you, that's mental presence. You don't change your behavior for someone you're not thinking about. His mind is already factoring you into his daily decisions. A man who is attached makes space. He makes time even when he's busy. He doesn't disappear and then come back with excuses. Instead, he finds ways to stay connected because you matter enough to remain a priority. Attachment doesn't always look dramatic. Often, it looks steady. It's the regular call, the consistent check-in, the effort to be available. These behaviors happen because his mind keeps returning to you. Promises often sound good, but they don't require emotional risk. Behavior does. When a man changes how he moves for you, when he becomes more reliable, more present, and more considerate, that's attachment in action. He's not just thinking about how he feels, he's thinking about how his actions affect you. That level of awareness only comes when a woman is occupying real space in his mind. A man who isn't attached talks about potential but avoids responsibility. He'll tell you how much he cares, how special you are, and what he wants to do in the future, yet his behavior stays inconsistent. That inconsistency is a sign that his mind isn't fully engaged, but when his behavior aligns with care, protection, and consistency, that's when attachment is real. Attachment also shows up in accountability. A man who is thinking about you doesn't want to lose your respect. If he messes up, he tries to fix it. If he hurts you, he notices. He doesn't dismiss your feelings because they matter to him. His mind stays aware of your emotional responses, and that awareness shapes how he behaves moving forward. Another powerful sign of attachment is effort without being asked. He doesn't wait for reminders. He anticipates your needs. He plans ahead. That anticipation comes from thinking about you when you're not present. His behavior reflects foresight, and foresight comes from emotional investment. When a man is attached, he protects the connection. He doesn't put himself in situations that would threaten what you have. He sets boundaries without being told. That kind of discipline doesn't come from words. It comes from internal commitment. His mind has already decided that you matter. Promises fade when emotions change, but behavior stays consistent when attachment is real. When a man's actions continue to reflect care, presence, and effort over time, that's proof that you are not just in his life, you are in his mind. Distance often increases awareness of true feelings because space removes distraction and forces clarity. When a man is constantly around a woman, he can confuse comfort with attachment and routine with emotion. But when distance enters, the noise fades. What remains is what truly matters to him. If a woman is not important, distance feels like relief. If she is important, distance feels heavy, noticeable, and unsettling. When a man starts missing someone, it's not just her presence he misses, it's the way she made him feel. Distance takes away access, and access is something men don't appreciate until it's gone. That's when his mind begins replaying moments, conversations, and shared energy. He thinks about what she used to bring into his life without effort. Those thoughts don't come from habit, they come from emotional attachment. A man who is not emotionally connected uses distance as an excuse to disconnect further, but a man who cares uses distance as a reason to reflect. He starts questioning his decisions. He wonders if he handled things right. He thinks about what he could have done differently. That self-reflection only happens when a woman has already taken up space in his mind. Distance becomes a mirror, showing him feelings he didn't want to face before. Distance also removes a woman's emotional labor. When she stops initiating, stops checking in, and stops being available, a man is left alone with his thoughts. And those thoughts don't lie. He notices the silence. He notices the absence of her support, her attention, her energy. That awareness doesn't come from loneliness alone. It comes from realizing her value after it's no longer easily accessible. For many men, emotions become clear only when something feels at risk. Distance introduces the possibility of loss, and loss sharpens focus. When a man senses he might actually lose a woman, his mind shifts from comfort to urgency. He becomes more aware of what she meant to him because now is a chance she might not be there anymore. Distance also tests attachment. If he still feels drawn to you without constant communication, without reassurance, without reminders, that means the connection lives in his mind, not just in proximity. Real feelings don't disappear with space, they grow louder. The absence forces his mind to fill the gap with thoughts of you. Sometimes distance makes a man emotional in ways he doesn't understand. He might feel irritated, restless, or distracted without knowing why. That's because his mind is processing loss, change, and emotional dependence. These feelings only surface when someone mattered. Distance doesn't create feelings, it reveals them. A woman who can step back and still remain present in a man's thoughts holds quiet power. Distance gives him the chance to feel what life is like without her. And if her absence changes his emotional state, his focus, and his behavior, that means she was never just a part of his routine. She was part of his emotional world. If he checks in without a reason, it means you matter deeply to him, because people don't reach out without purpose unless there is emotional attachment behind it. A man does not randomly think about someone and act on it unless that person already holds space in his mind. When he messages or calls you without needing anything, without a problem to solve or a task to complete, that action is driven purely by thought and feeling. Men are naturally purposeful communicators. They speak when there is a reason. So when a man reaches out just to ask how your day is going, to see if you're okay, or simply to say he was thinking about you, that's emotional investment. His mind landed on you, and instead of brushing the thought away, he acted on it. That means the thought carried weight. Checking in is also a form of reassurance. When a man cares, he wants to know where he stands with you. He wants to feel your presence, even briefly. A simple message is his way of staying connected, of keeping the bond alive. He's not doing it out of obligation. He's doing it because your absence creates a gap he feels compelled to fill. When a man isn't emotionally attached, he communicates only when it benefits him. He calls when he's lonely, bored, or wants something. But when his check-ins are consistent and gentle, when they happen during busy days or quiet moments alike, that's different. That's a man whose thoughts return to you naturally, not just when it's convenient. Unprompted check-ins also reveal emotional awareness. He notices your energy. If you've been quieter than usual, he reaches out. If something feels off, he senses it. That awareness comes from thinking about you beyond surface level. His mind is paying attention even when you're not directly in front of him. Sometimes men check in indirectly. They send a song, a joke, a memory, or something small that reminded them of you. These gestures may seem casual, but they are deeply intentional. His mind connected you to something in his world, and he wanted to share that connection. That's emotional closeness. A man who checks in without a reason is also testing emotional safety. He wants to see if he's still welcome, if the connection is still open. That desire to remain emotionally connected comes from care. Indifference doesn't seek reassurance, only attachment does. Even when a man doesn't know how to express his feelings clearly, his check-ins do the talking for him. They say, "You crossed my mind, I care how you're doing, and you still matter to me." And those messages are powerful because they are not forced. They come from genuine thought. A woman who receives this kind of attention should understand its meaning. It's not about frequency, it's about intention. When a man reaches out without needing anything, without being prompted, it means your presence still lives in his thoughts quietly and consistently. What he does when no one is watching tells the real story, because true intentions are revealed in private, not in public performance. Many people, men included, can put on a show when others are around, saying the right words, performing affection, or giving attention to create an image. But the reality of a man's feelings is displayed in the moments when he believes no one is observing him. That's when his mind and heart are free to act honestly without fear of judgment or expectation. A man who genuinely has you on his mind will think of you even when there is no audience, no reason to impress, and no need to gain approval. He will make small efforts that are invisible to the public eye, checking on you quietly, remembering details you've mentioned, and thinking about your needs before his own. These are not grand gestures designed for attention. They are subtle, consistent signs of thought and care. If you are the subject of those private actions, it means your presence occupies his mental and emotional space, even when there is no reward or recognition attached. The moments when a man is alone with his thoughts are the moments where truth comes out. He may replay your conversations in his head, consider ways to make you happy, or reflect on mistakes and how they affected you. These internal processes are unseen by others, but they are extremely telling. Words spoken in public can be rehearsed, but the effort he puts in behind closed doors, planning, caring, thinking, is authentic. This is where real attachment is measured, not by what he says, but by what he does silently. Another indicator is consistency. A man who thinks about you consistently, even without others knowing, proves that you are more than just a passing thought. If his actions align with thoughtfulness when no one is watching, it shows that your importance in his mind isn't performative. He doesn't act when he sees a potential audience. He acts because the thought of you motivates him to do so. That consistency, when repeated over time, becomes a strong signal that you occupy a significant place in his mental and emotional world. Private actions also reflect emotional investment in practical ways. He may go out of his way to make your life easier, handle tasks without being asked, or consider your comfort in decisions that don't require his attention. None of these acts need to be public or praised. They are done because he is thinking about you and values you. When you notice these private gestures, you are seeing the real, unfiltered evidence of his attention and care. This is far more meaningful than public declarations, which can sometimes be superficial or performed for validation. Even small, unnoticed habits reveal thoughtfulness. Perhaps he sends a text in the middle of his day just to say he was thinking of you, or maybe he saves something that reminded him of you without telling anyone. These are moments of intention without expectation. They prove that his mind returns to you naturally without prompting because you matter to him on a level